has gotten, and didn't have his history in developing the relationship with the Colonel, the details of the music, all that came out in these conversations. And because it was audio only, I think we got to know each other and spent a lot of time, and didn't have a crew sitting around looking at us while we discussed these things.
Priscilla, what did you want people to know that perhaps, has gotten lost in, for lack of a better term, the myth that he became?
Just what it portrayed. You did an amazing job with this, and truly, I mean, so much. How many years? 2 years? 2 years. Talking with Jerry, talking with myself, and I think what came out of it for both Jerry and I know with Tom, is to show how much of an artist Elvis Presley was. That people, I don't feel, ever got him as an artist. His own management didn't get him. His label didn't get him. They saw that he was a commodity, and I think he was. And I think he realized that toward the end, that he was just a commodity, that he would never really be able.
Okay, let's pause it. Right, a bit dark in here. Let me turn the light on. How we going, guys? I've still got a bit going in me. Okay, let's brighten it up a bit. It's a bit dark in here. Okay, it's a bit dark in here. Right, how we going, guys? It's Defending Elvis Presley. Fans want the truth. Let me just, could be brighter, but let me just tell a few people that were live, because I don't think everyone's on. Deborah, how's everyone going? Did you enjoy the disco? Do-lang, do-lang, do-lang. How was it? She's so fine. Did anyone do the disco? Let me just tell everyone. So tell each other, guys. Tell each other we're live. Who else are we going to tell? Deborah. Is Deborah on? Have you connected with each other, guys? So you can tell each other we're live. So we've got Teresa. Teresa, did you like your D. Martin? We had such fun on the disco, didn't we? When I went on the dog walk, I played the disco. I listened to the disco. Hi, Diana. Knew a man, Bojangles, and he danced for me. So, Diana, my favorite Robbie song is Feel. I just want to feel. You know it? How we get, right, who else we got in? Yeah, it was a bit of fun. Lightening the mood. Lightening the mood. The 247... The 24-hour chat, I don't know, sometimes it's a bit intense, isn't it? So we have a little look at it now. Let's have a look. So obviously I go on it quite a lot. I don't talk on it much, but I go through the comments because I like to grab all the stuff. Look, I'll play something now that is on there, that's just been posted on there. Let's see if it's going to come up. Is it going to work? Is it going to work? Come on, come on. There we go. Let's turn the volume up.
Anyone special in Germany? I'm not any special one. There was an older girl that I was seeing quite often over there that her father was in the Air Force, and actually they only got over there about 2 months before I left. And I was seeing her, and she was at the airport when I left. There were some pictures made of her. But it was no big romance for me now. The stories came out, the girl he left behind and all that. It wasn't like that. I mean, I had to be careful when I answer a question like this.
Well, did you like the food over there when you would go out?
Oh, that's interesting, Diana.
I never went out.
Never ate out at the restaurant?
I never ate in the restaurant the entire time I was in Germany. It's funny. I either ate in the mess hall or at home. All the two. I never went anywhere while I was in Europe except to Paris. I went to Paris and.
Hi, Francis. Yeah, so that is on the 24-hour chat. Let's have a look. Let's just see what else you guys have put on there. Just in case anyone's new, we are defending Elvis Presley. Fans want the truth. I'm in Southwest UK. My name's Louis, and we are with Team Elvis. And I don't normally do the live streams this time of night, but I just felt like it because I'm not ready to go to bed yet. Normally around now, I go up to my room, put a film on and chill, but I've still got a bit of go in me. Let's see what else is on the 24-hour chat. Right, I'll read it. The talent, the looks will never be repeated in our lifetime. He was a gift from heaven. Yeah? Let's have a look. Hi, Joanne. Hi, everyone. I'm here from the USA. Love watching you. Hi. How are we going? I got my water. I don't drink tea and coffee in the evening. It is, what is the time? It is 8:51 p.m. and I go to bed quite early. 10 after 10, I'm in bed. So many of you, I'm guessing most of you, it's 5-ish. Is that right? 4-ish p.m. in the USA. Obviously, there's a lot of you in the UK, Australia, Canada, Italy, other countries all around the world. So in Natalie, it's 2 p.m. in Idaho. Yeah, 2 p.m. So Francis, it's in Ohio, it's 3:50 p.m. So you're like in the early part of your day. You lot are like just getting going. I'm like, ugh. Today I've walked 6 miles. That's how far I've walked today. And I've done a run. And I did my weightlifting. So I've been busy, as well as doing 2 lives. The second one was just fun. Let me just... I'm just checking the stuff that you got. We're going to have a little bit of fun. There's a reason I played that clip in the beginning, and I'm going to tell you in a second. Why is there no volume? Oh, it's just a picture one, is it? Yeah, it's just a picture one. Let's see if we get one with a bit of talking in it. I'm just going through. Riley Keough gives rare insight into sole owner of a 500 million estate. This, I think I've already clicked on this. This is just a tour. I think some kind of interview she's given to one of the papers. I think Natalie posted it. Is that right, Natalie? But I don't want to read tonight. I'm not in the mood for reading. Let's see what happens here.
Okay.
Thank you, Natalie.
All right, this is Elvis Presley. I'm glad you bought this magazine so I can have a chance to speak to you and tell you a few things about the way I feel, why I do the things I do, and see if maybe you don't feel the same way. Smell my voice. Hi, this is Elvis Presley.
Look the other way. Right, let's I'm just going to go through the 24/7 chat. What else is in here? What have you guys been up to, eh? Ginger, does Ginger ever join us on the live streams? Ginger posts a lot of voice messages, always very interesting. Let's have a look. So it's always quite, I will say this, guys, that it's always interesting, isn't it? Always. I'm just seeing if there's any more pictures and videos. You never get bored on the 24/7 chat. What do you think, Natalie? Does it get interesting? We have Susie on there. Natalie likes using it. Nicola can be quite fiery. Nicola, are you here? There's some very strong personalities, isn't there? So we've got Tev. Tev is on there. Hi, Valvis. Right, what it is, I'm messing around a bit. Now, I come across this interview Now, I think they're talking about the making of the documentary, The Searcher, which I did watch a while back. I don't know if I'm definitely right here, but this is what I want to do here is just go through a bit of it. Now, I do have issues with the closeness and the friendship between Jerry Schilling and Priscilla. Now, I'm not against Jerry Schilling. I know that Elvis brought him a home. I know they were close. And I know Jerry loved Elvis, and his book was very kind to Elvis. But I'm always a bit dubious about their closeness. I always think their friendship, well, there's a possibility there could have been romance, isn't there? There is a small chance. Does anyone think they could have had a romance? But not just that. I also think that after Elvis passed, that obviously Priscilla becomes the boss of everything eventually, especially after Vernon dies. And I just think there's been like an entanglement of money agreements. I think that there was financial things. I think Jerry Schilling was entwined in many decisions that were made. So I'm skeptical of the friendship between Jerry and Priscilla. But I'm not against Jerry. I have an open mind about what went on. So when I watched this, when this came on, I started thinking, well, because Priscilla, she always speaks on behalf of Elvis, yeah? Hi there, is that Gio? We don't know, do we, if there was romance? There's so many different stories around Jerry and Priscilla, so many, right? Obviously, they're still mates now. Jerry was very close to Lisa. I think he's probably friendly with Riley Keough as well, isn't he? So I'm not here to bash Jerry, but this interview comes up. The conversation, it says, is Priscilla Presley, Tom Zimmy, and Jerry Schilling. Now, can any of you tell me who Tom Zimmy is? Now, I think they're talking about a documentary. When I first started watching it, I thought they were talking about the making of the Priscilla film with Sofia Coppola, but I don't think they are now. I think this might be the making of The Searcher. Didn't they release The Searcher on Disney? So do any of you know who Tom Zimmy is? Don't know. So the reason I'm going to play some of this, I thought I'd watch it with you guys, a bit of it, and just see, because Priscilla obviously feels that she can speak on behalf of Elvis as if she was with him from the moment he was born to the day he died. This is the feeling I get. You've got, I'll play a bit of it, Natalie. It could, yes, actually, it could be Baz Luhrmann's film. We'll see. I haven't watched any of it. I came across it and I thought, I want to play some of this, but I don't want to watch it on my own. I want to watch it with you. So I will just say this. Priscilla talks about Elvis as if she was with him from the day he was born to the day he died. Literally as if she was his parent. Yeah. She feels that she knows him better than anyone. Now remember, their relationship really was very short. They had the brief encounter in Germany. Then she moved over to Gracelands when she was nearly 18. Really, Elvis, when Priscilla lived with Elvis at Gracelands and the other homes until they got engaged, Elvis was always away, always busy, making loads of movies, 2-3 movies a year. So the time I think they did spend some decent time together was when she got engaged, when he got engaged. Even then, he was still making the movies, but then through the pregnancy, even then, he was away making movies. But I know he was always rushing back to get back to Priscilla because he was so excited that Priscilla was pregnant. And then we all know that it all just went wrong in '68 with the unfaithfulness just after Lisa Marie was born, when with Steve Pett, the dance instructor. So then really it's all over after that, isn't it? They're not together that often. They're both seeing different people, really, aren't they? After '68, yeah? I think the Kathy book has hinted at that as well, hasn't it? But so Priscilla will talk about Elvis as if she knew him like the back of her hand, like she knew the inside and outside of Elvis and knew him better than anyone. Now let's listen to this, and I'm going to jump in if I think something doesn't sound right. Okay?
Able to reach the heights that he wanted in film, and even in his music. I mean, the music that he gravitated to is really what you saw here, and what gets me, which is so personal for me, and Jerry and I have talked about this for a long time, is here he was 10 years old, which is very revealing. 10 years old singing "Old Shep," and this is a song. What 10-year-old sings a song of loss and pain, and being in touch with a dog. So people missed it. They just missed who he was. And I get quite emotional every time I see this film. And it's already been like 15 times already. And I still get into I keep thinking, okay, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to walk up and I'm going to just be strong and be able to talk. But it's hard. It's really hard. It's just like relive it. And so it's really about showing the artist and who he was, and he was so much deeper than those movies. And I can't really kind of put the movies down that much because there are people who love the movies. So I just know where his heart was, what he wanted to do, as you do as well, Jerry, and to have his career veer off in a whole other direction, because there was pain there was loss there, and the documentary is answering so many questions that people have asked about Colonel Parker. Why not go overseas? What was the big deal? Why couldn't Colonel go? So I hope, and talking with Tom, and he got it, that you get the answers that you always wanted to know as an audience.
Yeah, the specter of Colonel Parker seems to kind of weigh over not only his career, but the film in particular.
See if I can turn the light on.
Did he ever talk to you about the Colonel? What might he have said to you in an unguarded moment?
Well, I won't repeat those. but Scott, and this was a difficult thing for Priscilla and I, because he's an easy to go to bad guy. And we had creative disappointments or disagreements with the Colonel. But, the Colonel, from his own perspective, I mean, the Colonel, it wasn't all about money. It looks that way if you don't know him. But when you say Priscilla, he loved Elvis.
He did love Elvis. I can't say that he did anything evil to hurt him. He just, it's just like I said, he just didn't know his artist. He did what he did, promote it.
And I think the love went both ways. It's like Priscilla says in the narration, Elvis creatively outgrew the Colonel, and we saw that. And the beauty of Tom's directing was Tom came into this project not as a producer who knew everything. He listened. And he learned.
Right, I'm back. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to get the light a bit brighter.
From the film that Tom's produced, we sit there and we're bad. I hope we didn't distract him, but where did this come from?
Well, I mean, that's one thing. You had, complete access to the archive and to, I believe, everything that RCA had.
Okay, sorry about that. I was trying to get the lights a bit lighter because I'm in the dark, aren't I? So what are whilst I was trying to fix the light, did you hear that? Now remember, do you hear the way they're talking about Colonel Tom Parker? See, this is what I'm trying to say, guys, is that you've got Priscilla and Jerry Schilling. Now, who's gonna disagree with them? Yeah, you think when this was made, it was before Priscilla had fallen out with Joel Weishankar. Yeah, before the Priscilla film, things were riding high with the Baz Luhrmann film, weren't they? Yeah. So, who are more important? I'm asking you this question, guys. who is more important than Jerry and Priscilla? You think about it. Yeah. Now Priscilla is at the top of a mountain. She's the boss. Yeah. She's riding high. Yeah. Obviously, Lisa Marie is heavily involved as well. But the way that they speak about Colonel Tom Parker, now we have very strong views about Colonel Tom Parker. You know, the right, the good that he did, the bad that he did. But they both together brush him off, talk about Colonel Tom Parker as if he was perfect, a really good man, really good for Elvis. Yeah, did you hear that? That's what I heard when I was messing around. Do any of you have opinions on that? Let's have a look. I'll just read a couple of your comments. It is very hypocritical that she talks about his depths with his. Now let me just slow the comments down. He took advantage of him, and just like many others, when he got sick, they were all gone. I mean, I haven't really gone into Colonel Tom Parker's stuff. There's some quite good interviews that I've done videos about, but I've got, Colonel Tom Parker. And we know that he was great at merchandising, great at getting the big contracts, getting the big bucks, opening certain doors, yeah. But he did take on the most talented, wanted man on the planet. So it was probably quite easy for him to open doors. So he even himself in an interview, Colonel Tom Parker actually said anyone could have managed him. Anyone. Let's just listen to a bit more of this, and then we might get up to the Colonel Tom Parker interview. Let's just listen to a bit more. The reason I'm trying to listen to this, guys, is I want to see how Priscilla and Jerry talk on behalf of Elvis. He's not in the room. He's passed away. He can't stand up and get involved in this chat. So the way that they discuss Elvis, I want to see if it's fair to Elvis.
This is an enormous undertaking.
I wouldn't have the film today this way without Priscilla and Jerry opening up the vault at Graceland and spending days, and Vernon saved everything. So all the images of the stationery and the letters and the original contracts, all those details I got from Graceland. And they really, what I think happened also in those visits with the research was I started to realize that Graceland itself was a character. So then you start to look at the space, and because they gave me this access that was after.
I'm gonna go. I want to hear Priscilla talk.
And how about Gladys's voice? Sing.
Hours of footage, and we just pour over it obsessively to try to find that tone, and we found things that a Super 8 that was never seen in concert footage.
And how about Gladys's voice singing?
Yeah, that's the huge.
I had never ever heard that. I had never.
So you were not aware of that?
No, I didn't. I did not know.
How did you find that?
Ernst Jurgensen is an archivist that works with the Sony Legacy. Called me up. Someone had it on tape.
Can you go forward a bit?
Him and have followed him. Fake news.
Forces for me to both
ambition
and get it all wrong.
Ambitions. Why now?
Well, I think it has to be told because I'm afraid that if we didn't tell the story, someone else would tell the story and get it all wrong. And if we didn't, well, we're still here. We've lost a few people in our pack. Memphis Mafia, quite a few, 56 people. And that was a realization for me when I started after we had lost Joe Esposito. That was like the trigger for me to go, oh my God, if we don't do this, if this doesn't happen, it will be distorted out of proportion in one way or another, other people's perspective, hearsay, altered. So the opportunity came and we grabbed it. And Jerry and I talked about it. I said, I know for myself, that's all I've been thinking about is how the social media is today, all the fake news. I can't imagine anybody else doing this. And this is a very, very honest documentary. It humanizes Elvis Presley.
So it is the documentary.
Was that, the fans, see their idol and love him and have followed him and supported him, and their children and grandchildren are supporting him. That my fear was they see their idol a certain way, and now will this humanize Elvis too much, where they don't want to see that. They want to see Elvis the way they want to see him, and that was a fear that I had. Mm-hmm. Hoping that they could see his vulnerability, seeing the man behind the music, seeing his dreams, and embracing him even more, because my whole thing is that if you love him now, I think you love him even more, when you see his vulnerability and how he was so authentic. Elvis was. He didn't put anything up to what do you call the facade. What you saw here is what you got.
I mean, to my mind, this really elevates him, in a way that hasn't been done previously.
Well, Scott, that was our original motivation. The iconic image is a wonderful thing in a certain way, but we felt that the human was being lost in that iconic image. And there was a sensibility for Elvis's intelligence. He just wasn't a lucky, as we say in the film. He worked hard. And, we took, I think it was the second meeting at HBO. Andrew and I had put together, and Priscilla, a little reel of Elvis outtakes in the documentaries, where you see he's the most, when you guys say underrated producer in music history, he was the producer, So we really wanted to get that across.
And just to say, Carrie, are you still here, Anthalis? Yeah. Carrie, okay, Carrie, of course, who is the force behind this for HBO, saw that footage. Exactly. And took out that, just what Jerry said, Elvis as a producer. Tom also did Bruce Springsteen's documentary, which is also a big selling point for us, to see what he did with Bruce. And so this is our guy. And of course, Carrie is the one who suggested Tom. But Carrie, you hit it right on the nail, is seeing that, like I said earlier, no one ever saw him as the artist. No one ever mentioned that before, about how Elvis produced, and was behind the scene on his music. So that again is all a revelation.
Priscilla and I didn't want Tom. We didn't know who Tom was, and Carrie was not just HBO. He was a creative producer in this. And thank you.
Yeah. It's just
we were all so young. We were living with Elvis, being around him, and we knew he was Elvis Presley, but not as the artist. We did not have advice for him. We did not. I mean, he would never ask us anyway. But if we did, we didn't have words like Bruce and Tom do to make you understand an artist to an artist, which I thought was brilliant to have, instead of the same old people, not us, the same talk.
Well, and only an artist, I love what Bruce says, is that, when he's on stage, he's at home. Yeah. And when he gets home is when he's pretending. And we all in rock and roll know that.
Yeah, I'm not feeling it, guys. Let's jump forward a bit.
It was mixed and everything was done. I don't
know. I'm not feeling it with that interview. I just think they're trying to speak on behalf of him. I don't agree with many of the things that are being said, like, the way that they're saying that he wasn't looked at properly as an artist. I don't think they're qualified to talk about him when it comes to his talent and his the way he produced his own music. And the pair of them know nothing about actually performing, singing, playing instruments, being with a band, being with an orchestra. They know nothing. But they're trying to talk about him like professional people, and they're not. Yeah, she married him, and yeah, Jerry managed some bands, the Beach Boys, whatever. But I'm just not feeling it. All I see is that you've got this connection between Priscilla and Jerry Schilling, and it's all about money. That's all I see. Maybe you guys see it differently. That's how I see it. Now, I'm going to play this interview. We're going to get a little feel for Colonel Tom Parker. Let's see if I can find it.
All right, everybody, let's go ahead and read some more Child Bride and talk about it.
Let's get it up. Here we go.
Seated, Colonel Parker, and to those who don't know it, let's tell them right now that Elvis is himself a legend, a showbiz pro with an old-time carny man's flair for bringing them into the tent. Colonel Tom Parker saw Elvis Presley for what he could be, and as his personal manager, launched him on the royal road to stardom. To mark the Elvis Presley anniversary, Colonel Parker is playing host in the Elvis Suite, the rooms where Presley stayed when he was playing the Las Vegas Hilton, then the International Hotel. The suite has been filled with Presley memorabilia for just this week. At age 78, Colonel Parker generally declines interviews, but he agreed to talk to us earlier today from Las Vegas. It is generally conceded, Colonel Parker, and to those who don't know it, let's tell them right now that Elvis's success was part Elvis, part Colonel Parker. Which part was yours? Because that was the less visible part.
I think mine was the least part.
But explain it to me. What was it? What did you do for him to help bring him to the public's attention?
I did all the promotion, the outdoor advertising, and he did the show on the stage, and the fans made it possible. You can promote all you want to, but if the people don't want to buy a ticket, it doesn't help. So I did my part, Elvis did his show, and we were lucky. Great talent. We had a great show and a lot of fun.
Now, let me ask you something. In this day and age, in the 1980s, it would be unthinkable that a star of Elvis Presley's magnitude would not end up on the Johnny Carson show, on the Merv Griffin show, on half the talk shows around the country. You deliberately kept him back a little bit from that kind of exposure. Why did you do that?
Well, I like to correct you. I kept him back, but I didn't do it deliberately. I found out some of my friends, they had artists, they put them on all the shows, talk shows for free, and they had a hard time getting a job after that.
So you thought it was just that it was bad promotion, even though it got someone very well known, that it ultimately didn't work out for the best?
Well, I felt it was good for us not to go on, although all these fellas were good friends of mine. But when you go on these shows, most of the time they book people when they're big stars, so they don't hurt them too much. But we were starting out, and it wouldn't have helped us any, which has proven because we did all right without him.
Yeah, you did terrific without him. You've got critics, you know that. You have them. Even Elvis has critics. Your critics say that you held him back, that he could have been much more of an actor, for example, than he ultimately, was given a chance to be.
Well,
because you put him in those kind of, beach bikini, jailhouse rock type movies.
Well, if whoever said that, that's fine. They can say what they want to. If I was them, if they know so much, they ought to go into management business.
Well, you tell me about it. I mean, was he perfectly content? I mean, was it a matter of his knowing his own level, knowing his own limitations, or was it just...
Well, I didn't know what he knew all of it, but he knew that he could do whatever he wanted to, and nobody told Elvis Presley what to do, because he was a very strong person, and we had a great relationship, but I took care of mine, he took care of his, and he didn't let anybody tell him what to do.
Could he have been a really great actor? Could he have become a fine dramatic actor, do you think? Did he have that kind of ability?
Ted, you're right. But, one time at one studio, we had a great producer, the late Jerry Walt. You remember him?
Sure I do.
And he came to us with a script. And he told Elvis that if we did this picture, he would be practically assured of an Academy Award. But they could not pay us the money that we wanted because the script was so expensive. So I told him that we usually stay home during the Academy Award, and he paid us our money, and if he bought us the Oscar, I give him his money back, and I never saw him again.
Okay, now what about the songs? I am told that he could sit there and listen to a stack of demos, and 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 would go by, and then he'd say, "That's the one. I want that one," and that he had kind of an unerring instinct for what was good and right for him musically.
Yeah, Ted. As long as I was with Elvis Presley, I never was involved with what songs he was going to record. Very seldom I was ever in the studio. He picked his own songs with the songwriters, whatever they were, and he never asked me, should I do this or that? It was up to him. He liked it that way. The only song that I was able to have him record, because I thought it was good for him, was Are You Lonesome Tonight? That's the only one.
Step back for a moment and do what I know so many people who are watching tonight would like you to do, and that is explain, if you can, the Elvis phenomenon. Not just while he was alive, but here we are 10 years after his death, and if anything, he's a bigger star than he ever was.
I think it's wonderful, the following, the people supporting him, and what else can you say? I've never heard of anything like this, but I'm very happy with it, and I know if Elvis is anyway looking down, I think he's laughing pretty good with what's going on. I don't think I can explain it, Ted. I've been 10 years since Elvis passed away. When he passed away, I was on tour. I had to stay behind, close out all the tours. But I've been for 10 years doing nothing except consulting work and working on keeping Elvis's name in the limelight with the fans because they're devoted. I've talked to over 1,000 in the last 4 days here. I did interviews, and it's unexplainable. They say anybody else could have done it, perhaps so, but I was happy to be the one that was with him. He did his part, I did mine, and there is no answer for that.
When all is said and done now, was he happy with his career? Was he satisfied with his career, or was there any emptiness left?
Well, I don't know, but I know one thing. When I told us to slow down, he said, I want to play more dates. So I booked more dates. I said, well, I don't think you should. And he said, well, that's what I want to do. And I quit for a while, and he was very unhappy, so we started all over again.
Colonel Parker, thanks very much.
Thank you.
I'll tell you what, that interviewer, he asks, I think, a lot of questions. A lot of questions.
The better part of 54. And he went through 55, was doing pretty good, you know, locally, Arkansas, Texas, Mississippi, just touring the country. That's where you met Colonel Parker.
Actually, I wasn't known at all until Colonel Parker started managing me, you see, and I got on RCA Victor and on television, and then I started being known.
I did all the promotion, the outdoor advertising, and he did the show on the stage, and the fans made it possible. So I did my part, Elvis did his show, and we were lucky.
There is a love-hate relationship with Colonel Parker.
I think Colonel did make some good decisions, but I think some of them he probably wish he could have had back too later in life.
Colonel did control Elvis. Part of that is okay. Elvis was the type of person who needed some control.
I don't know who else would have done it. To be honest with you, I don't know who else was even capable. I don't know if Vernon was really capable of handling all that, the media, the planes, the contacts. He didn't have the networking that Colonel Parker did.
They say anybody else could have done it, perhaps so. But I was happy to be the one that was with him.
It's interesting because I think it's very obvious that Priscilla and Jerry really like the Colonel. Really like him. So I've got a couple of old clips here that I made that cover the Colonel. Let's just see what they say. I made them about a year ago. They're short. So I think there's 2. Let's just see what they say, guys.
Actually, I wasn't known at all until Colonel Parker started managing me, you see, and I got on RCA Victor and on television, and then I started being known.
I did all the promotion, the outdoor advertising, and he did the show on the stage, and the fans made it possible. So I did my part, Elvis did his show, and we were lucky.
There is a love-hate relationship with Colonel Parker.
Colonel did control Elvis. Part of that is okay. Elvis was the type of person who needed some control.
I don't know who else would have done it. To be honest with you, I don't know who else was even capable. I don't know if Vernon was really capable of handling all that, the media, the planes, the contacts. He didn't have the networking that Colonel Parker did.
They say anybody else could have done it, perhaps so. But I was happy to be the one that was with him.
Yeah, very similar to the last one. Let's have a look. Let me try this one.
Priscilla Presley being interviewed about Colonel Tom Parker, and she basically is asked, did she actually like Colonel Tom Parker? And what kind of friendship did Elvis have with Colonel Tom Parker? So let's have a listen.
With Colonel Parker, did you ever make peace with him?
I did. There was two colonels. There was the colonel who was the manager.
And I know you Elvis fans out there have very, very passionate views on the Colonel, as well as Priscilla. But she goes on to basically say that Colonel had two sides to him. He had the manager side, and then he had just the family man. So the family man was a very sweet, caring person, but the manager was much more serious.
And there's Colonel that was, very, very sweet and very, very nice. I mean, he took care of both his wives. I had dinner with them, and actually Elvis did too.
Priscilla Presley being interviewed.
So I'm just sort of refreshing myself on the Colonel stuff. I'm just flicking through it now.
Colonel Parker is an honest man, and I think that's where the big organization and the big togetherness comes. Once you find out you don't have to worry about a guy being your manager, what he can do for you, he handles it, he do the show, everything works.
But I heard that Vernon, right up until his death, kept Colonel Tom Parker as the manager, kept him on, and even Priscilla wanted, even after Vernon passed, wanted to keep Colonel Tom Parker as the manager. Do any of you know that? But then, bigger powers stepped in, and a lot went on. We've been through it on a few live streams, and eventually Colonel Parker was kicked out of it. So that is a long story that we've done it a few times.
We were at the crap table. And he called and said, listen, he said, you got to stay with me here. And I said, well, I've got to go upstairs early. He said, no, you stay here. And said, I'll get you up there on time. And I said, okay. So in a period of an hour and a half, he lost over $1.25 million. I turned around and looked at him. I said, you got to be wealthy. I said, good God. He said, well, it all works out in the end.
By himself at the table with stacks of chips. Larry, he said, come here. Sit next to me. He said, I'm not doing too well. I need some luck. I said, okay, Colonel. And I felt so uncomfortable. I really did. After about 5-10 minutes, I said, Colonel, maybe you'll do better now. I hope you will, but I have to get back upstairs. So I left. The Colonel was there for hours upon hours upon hours until like 5 o'clock in the morning. And he lost $1.5 million that night.
Mad.
We were at the crap table. And he called and said, listen, he said, you got to stay with me here. And I said, well, I've got to go upstairs early. He said, no, you stay here. And said, I'll get you up there on time. And I said, okay. So in a period.
Obviously he was being paid way too much, guys. Way too much. Let's go back a bit. Let's see what else comes up. I think this is a very old interview.
He said, no.
While making a personal appearance for the Elvis Presley commemorative stamp at the Las Vegas Hilton, Colonel Tom Parker defended his relationship with Elvis. He gave this rare television interview exclusively to Inside Edition.
Scripts. I never read script. Elvis read script. The boy bought him script where he was. I had nothing to do with him picking whatever picture he wanted to make.
Colonel, I've spoken to some people in the so-called Memphis Mafia, and they told me that one of the reasons Elvis got so heavily involved in drugs was because he was frustrated with his career, a career path that you led him on. What do you think of that?
Well, those that do that, they did it because they got paid for it. Folks, they paid them. We have quite a few members of Elvis' staff that don't feel that way. From the time Elvis died, 16 years ago, to today, I've turned down more books for big money. Because my story, they were not friends. They said, no, we want the dirt. I said, well, I'm not a dirt farmer. That's the funniest story ever came out. There was never no plan for him to do Star Wars. He told me to make the contract stiff enough, but it would turn it down because he did not want to do it.
Another accusation is that you gave the Hilton a cushy deal. They didn't pay very much money for Elvis to entertain here to take care of some of your gambling debts.
My gambling had never anything to do with Elvis. And the rate, Elvis got more money during the period we played here than any artist in town. Liberace was getting $50,000. He was getting $125,000 a week.
The Colonel was also criticized for making bad business deals for Elvis and taking half of his profits.
I know of 4 or 5 big stars that have a deal like that. But my deal was not 50% of the profit. My deal was 50% of work I created where he did not have to perform. And we had a partnership. But on the motion pictures, the hotel, and the music business, 25%, never no more. All I know is I sleep very good at night. And Elvis and I were friends. I had a whole staff to go to Europe. He didn't want to go because he didn't want to play outdoors. And if you don't play outdoors, you can't make it.
What about the recent portrayals of you accusing you of misrepresenting Elvis and exploiting him?
If you give me an honest answer, do you think I exploited Elvis as much as he's being exploited today?
Well, he has a point, actually. Do you think I exploited Elvis as much as he's being exploited today? Well, quite a clever ending. But he does, one thing that I noticed is that he says that the Star is Born thing, that Elvis never wanted to do it. He says that. He says that Elvis actually told him to ask for so much money that they had to refuse him. So does anyone believe that? Parker was a promoter, not an artist manager. Parker only cared about money. Elvis needed a manager like Steve Binder, who was the director, producer of the '68 Comeback Special. Yeah, we've done a bit about Steve Binder, but I don't know. I think he was in denial with his gambling problems, wasn't he, the Colonel? But the other thing that stood out is that he said that not everything was 50-50. He said certain things were 25%. Is that true, guys? Was everything 50-50? Was some of the things 25%? That'd be interesting to know.
Welcome back, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to say my guest tonight is an Oscar-winning, great big old movie star. Please welcome back to The Late Show, Mr. Tom Hanks, everybody.
Right, let's move it forward a bit. We all love Tom Hanks. We love Austin Butler as well. That look, that glare that he has in that scene. Let's play. I can only play a couple more bits, guys. Let's see what this is.
For those who may not know, Colonel Tom Parker was the mastermind behind Elvis' rise to stardom. Despite their successful partnership, their relationship was fraught with tension, disagreements, and restrictions. Fast forward to August 18, 1977, just 2 days after Elvis's untimely death. The world gathered to say goodbye to a legend. Imagine the scene at Graceland, fans lining up by the thousands hearts heavy, eyes tearful. Inside, the close friends and family of Elvis, all dressed in somber suits and dresses to honor the king. And then, there's Colonel Parker, sticking out like a sore thumb. Yes, you heard that right. The Colonel decided to show up in a Hawaiian shirt and a baseball cap. When he spotted concert promoter Tom Hewlett in a suit, Parker's advice was to dress down into jeans, claiming, if Elvis looks down and sees the Colonel all dressed up, he's gonna say, "What the hell is that?" Parker's casual attire wasn't the only thing that caught attention. He actively avoided looking at Elvis's casket, refused to be a pallbearer, and positioned himself far away from the mourning family. Despite this, some say they saw a glimmer of pain in his eyes, suggesting a grief he refused to publicly acknowledge. After Elvis's death, Parker planned to continue managing Elvis's legacy, much like he did when Elvis was drafted into the Army, saying Elvis didn't die. The body did. This changes nothing. A sentiment so bizarre, it led to legal battles against Parker for mismanagement years later. So why did Colonel Tom Parker refuse to dress nicely for Elvis's funeral? Was it a final cryptic message to the world? Or perhaps a strange form of respect for the icon he managed for so many years? But here's the real question I want you to think about, and I mean really ponder. What do you believe was going through Parker's mind that day? So what are your thoughts on this? Sound off in the comments section down below. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for celebrity news.
Celebrity news, we sure will. So, interesting, guys. We'll play one more, then we're going to have to go, guys.
Elvis's shady and distrustful manager, Colonel Tom Parker, was secretly calling the shots. Here's the truth about Elvis Presley's manager. One of the most surprising things about Colonel Tom Parker is that he wasn't an American, and that his real name wasn't Tom Parker. Parker was actually born in the city of Breda in the Netherlands, making him Dutch. His real name was Andreas van Kwak. While he was still in his teens, Andreas fled the Netherlands by ship, arriving in Canada and making his way to Hoboken, New Jersey. He worked with traveling carnivals and eventually got into music promotion, changing his name to Tom Parker and erasing any mention of his true origins. Parker entered the country illegally and never took any steps to correct his status, despite the fact that it would have been relatively easy to do so. As Smithsonian Magazine points out, the Alien Registration Act of 1940 basically offered amnesty to all illegal aliens, so becoming a naturalized citizen would have been pretty easy. And even if there were difficulties, by the 1960s, Parker was rich and famous and probably had the connections to get any problem smoothed out. Yet he never bothered and thus remained an illegal immigrant his entire life. Colonel Tom Parker put a lot of effort into hiding his true identity and his past. As Smithsonian Magazine reports, he even went so far as to create an elaborate fake past for himself. He claimed to have been born in Huntington, West Virginia.
I was born in West Virginia in the U.S. of A.
He maintained that his name was Thomas Andrew Parker and was happy to imply that his apparent rank of colonel stemmed from his service in the Army before World War II. None of this was true. Parker did serve in the Army, but only attained the rank of private. His rank of colonel was ceremonial, bestowed on him by the governor of Louisiana in 1948 as a reward for his efforts on the governor's election campaign. What's truly remarkable about Colonel Parker's deception is how long it lasted. Parker became one of the most famous people in the world, amassed a fortune, and negotiated huge deals on Presley's behalf, often making business enemies as he went due to his hard-nosed style. Yet no one ever thought to investigate the colonel's past. The truth of his life didn't come out until Parker was in his 70s and Presley was long dead. After immigrating illegally to the United States from the Netherlands in the 1920s, Colonel Tom Parker eventually joined the U.S. Army in 1929. He served 2 years without incident and then re-enlisted in 1931. His second stint in the Army didn't go so well. Parker walked off his post and was officially declared absent without leave, or AWOL, in 1932. He was quickly arrested and spent a few months in military prison. Parker's stay in prison was harsh, and he was kept in solitary confinement for months. This took a mental toll on him. As the New York Times notes, Parker was eventually discharged from the Army, but only after suffering some sort of breakdown. The Washington Post reports that he spent several months recuperating at Walter Reed Army Hospital and was officially diagnosed as being in a, quote, constitutional psychopathic state. Parker was released from the armed forces that year. When World War II erupted, plunging the whole world into bloody conflict, the U.S. Army needed a lot of men in a very short time, and most people were more than willing to step up and answer the draft. Plenty of men of all ages chose not to wait for the draft and volunteered for service. As a veteran, Parker would have been an ideal choice for the draft, but Parker's first experience with the Army had ended with desertion, which left him with little apparent desire to repeat the experience, especially if it involved leaving the country and being shot at. Parker had apparently had all he could take of Army life and took steps to avoid serving his adopted country. Those steps mostly involved eating. Even in wartime, the Army has some strict standards about the physical condition of its soldiers, so Parker's brilliant plan to avoid the draft involved gaining weight. The plan was a resounding success for Parker. He soon weighed around 300 pounds, more than enough to be classified morbidly obese and unfit for service. Colonel Tom Parker had swagger. As the manager of the biggest musical star in the world, he could afford to bluster, often bragging about being in charge of Presley's career while earning the lion's share of the income. But Parker was also a very scared man who sacrificed millions of potential earnings because he didn't have a passport and was afraid to let Presley tour overseas without it. Despite being a superstar, Elvis Presley only toured outside the U.S. 3 times, all in 1957 and all in Canada. And notably, Parker did not accompany Presley on the trip because he feared that he'd be exposed as an illegal immigrant with an assumed name. After that, Parker consistently turned down offers for Presley to tour in Europe and Japan, deals often worth millions of dollars. As the Washington Post notes, British music promoter Harvey Goldsmith said flat out that when he tried to sign Presley to a performance in England, Parker told him privately it would never happen because he was afraid to leave the U.S. The Washington Post also reminds us that this cost Presley, whose estate was worth just $7 million when he died, a great deal of money. If Parker hadn't been so paranoid about Presley being outside of his direct control, the king would have earned millions more. One of the biggest mysteries surrounding Colonel Tom Parker is his extreme paranoia and secrecy. It's true he was an illegal immigrant living under an assumed name and therefore had a legitimate reason to worry about any involvement with law enforcement. However, as Smithsonian Magazine points out, he could have cleared up his immigration status fairly easily. So why was he so worried about his true identity coming out? Possibly because he was a murderer. As writer Alana Nash notes, a reporter in Parker's home country of the Netherlands received an anonymous letter stating that Parker murdered the wife of a greengrocer on the Boschstad, a shopping and residential area in Breda. And in fact, there is an unsolved murder in Boschstad that fits the timeline of Parker's movements. In 1929, a woman named Anna van den Enden was beaten to death behind her husband's grocery store. The crime scene showed evidence of a search for money and valuables, and an effort had been made to obscure physical evidence. There's no way to know if the man who would become Elvis's manager was Anna van den Enden's killer. The police investigation uncovered no clues, and it's impossible to place Parker in any specific place in 1929. But it certainly would explain Parker's hurried exit from his home country and his fevered secrecy and worry over his true identity. Promoting the world's biggest musical act isn't the most difficult job. Elvis Presley was one of the most in-demand artists in the world, and the offers poured into Colonel Tom Parker no matter what he did. And Parker soaked Elvis for an enormous amount of money. As the Washington Post notes, by 1966, Parker was earning 50% of Elvis's paychecks. And in 1973, Parker sold the rights to Presley's recording catalog to RCA for a lowball $5.4 million. One reason Parker needed all that money was his gambling. Additionally, as the Daily Express reports, Parker may have contributed to Presley's early death by pushing the singer to perform 2 shows a night, 7 days a week for his Las Vegas residencies in order to keep the cash flowing.
So I did my part, Elvis did his show, and we were lucky. Great talent, and we had a great show and a lot of fun.
With Elvis in Las Vegas, Parker ran up enormous debts with the casinos and was focused on keeping Presley working constantly so he could cover his debts. Elvis's decline during this period is obvious. The physical and mental strain of playing every night drove Elvis to severely abuse several prescription medications. He gained weight and looked awful, sweating through his rhinestone jumpsuits. Elvis was known for many things, launching rock and roll into the mainstream, scandalizing folks with his hip gyrations, rhinestone-studded jumpsuits, and some really, really awful movies. Colonel Tom Parker signed Elvis to these terrible films for a simple reason. They made tons of money, $2.2 billion in domestic gross alone. Add in the soundtrack royalties and the free publicity for Elvis records, and it's easy to see why Parker ignored his clients' pleas for better scripts. And those better scripts were out there and were offered to Presley. However, Parker turned down opportunities for Presley to star in several films that went on to be huge hits and establish their actors as legitimate stars. Elvis could have played the lead in West Side Story, for example, or the role that made John Boyd a star in Midnight Cowboy. He was also offered the Chris Christopherson role in the 1976 version of A Star is Born. Parker turned down all these roles because he preferred the safe money of Elvis's recordings and live shows. He was also very protective of Presley's current image. But trapping Presley in films of lesser and lesser quality not only frustrated the king, but also meant that while rock music was being revolutionized by the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, Elvis Presley was singing songs like Yoga Is As Yoga Does. Elvis Presley was huge. It was estimated that the rock and roll icon earned as much as $1 billion over the course of his career. As the Los Angeles Times points out, his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, knew that Elvis's brand was so powerful that he could earn millions at any moment simply by booking a tour, recording an album, or appearing in a film. And for every dollar Elvis earned, Tom Parker took a piece. That's standard. Most managers earn between 10 and 15% of what their clients make. But from the very beginning, Parker bilked his only client for more. Their original contract gave Parker an unheard of 25% of Presley's earnings, and he was eventually getting an astounding 50%. The new contract also allowed Parker to charge additional fees for services he provided, eating away at the money that should have gone to Elvis instead. Eventually, this uneven arrangement led to a truly incredible scenario. Elvis Presley's manager made more money than Elvis himself. As the Washington Post notes, in 1973, Parker sold the rights to Presley's recording catalog to RCA for a measly $5.4 million and earned $1.5 million more than Presley in the deal. Andreas Van Kwak kept up his false identity for decades, but eventually at least part of the truth caught up with him. In 1981, Albert Goldman published a biography of Elvis Presley that was pretty scathing in its portrayal of Parker, while exposing his true identity to the world. At the same time, Parker was being sued by Priscilla Presley, and his dubious financial and ethical behavior towards one of the world's most beloved performers was being detailed. Parker began to worry that he might be charged with crimes stemming from any number of these misdeeds, and suddenly decided to flip the script on his illegal entry into the United States in the 1920s. In order to slow down incoming criminal charges, Parker officially claimed that he was a citizen of no nation, and thus not subject to any country's laws. His reasoning was that he'd served in the U.S. military without permission from the Dutch government, and thus had forfeited his Dutch citizenship. Since he'd never been naturalized as a U.S. citizen either, he wasn't a subject of either country. The theory was never tested. Parker lived in increasing illness and obscurity following Elvis's death in 1977, mostly coasting on his affiliation with the late King. Parker died in 1997, 87 years old, and having gambled away most of his money. Check out one of our newest videos right here, plus even more grunge videos about your favorites. Nobody.
Okay, guys, that's it. That was actually, I thought that was really interesting. I thought the video footage all the way through, all the different clips, brilliant. I actually really enjoyed that. I was starting to fall asleep to it. But guys, got to go. The wife wants to be upstairs. I've managed to sneak in a quick hour with you guys. I'll be honest with you. I think there is good and bad, isn't there, with Colonel Tom Parker? It's not all bad. It's not all good. He had his uses, but many things he did were wrong. I know that the fans are very angry with Colonel Tom Parker, very angry. Yeah, we could probably spend hours bringing up all the different reasons why Team Elvis fans are still quite upset with Colonel Tom Parker. All right, guys, I got to go. The wife wants me. So I'm trying to pick out some different topics because I think we've done a bit too much with Priscilla. So we'll try and think of some different topics, yeah? We had a brilliant time today, the disco. Didn't we have a good time in the disco, yeah? Any of you that haven't watched it, we had a brilliant disco today. Go back, a 1950s, 1960s disco. It was fun. Take care, guys. Got to go. Goodbye to all of you. Sending you all love. Have a great time wherever you are in the world. Team Elvis out.